Let's make this official and get started. So overjoy, my understanding of overjoy is like it's hard to tolerate that level of joy. Is that what you mean, or was it just like lots of joy,
Lots of joy.
like a joyful
Yes.
level of joy?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, better than, yes, things didn't work out and then they worked out 100 times quicker and better than they should have as soon as I, you know, quit stewing.
Yeah. What do you know? I'm gonna do
Yeah.
that so I can belly breathe. I just ate dinner. I'm also gonna lift my hips so I can belly breathe.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I like that.
well, Audrey, that's how it always works out. We know that by now, right? It's such a
Yeah.
it's such a wonderful reminder because okay, well, let's get started. I'll weave it in because we're here for a reason. We want our money's worth, right, Fred? Are
That's
you
right.
frozen? Oh no, you're not frozen. So lately we've been talking about the stress response. I had to laugh, Audrey, last week, whatever, the last time I was on, I was talking about stress response and we finished and you said, I just heard you say, like, I heard it as if maybe that was the first time I've been talking about it. But it is not. Anyways, I'm glad that you heard it. So it is a really powerful concept to understand. And it's quite simple too, which is makes it powerful in my experience. So basically, we've got our sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. And we need that. It's a beautiful function of our human body, but we need it very rarely. We need our fight or flight to turn on when we need to fight or flight. And otherwise, we function optimally when our parasympathetic is turned on, which is our calm, relaxed, clear. It's not sleeping. It's not lazy. It's not like, oh, my guard is down. Anyone can take advantage of me. It's not that at all. It's alert. It's sharp. It's fast thinking. It's organized. It's an advantage. It's also your circulation system works properly, like optimally. You can digest. Fred, did you say it's a nickname for it is rest and digest?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Rest and digest. I saw that somewhere else and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
and there was somebody else talking about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And that's what they said is fight or flight or rest and digest.
yeah, brilliant. Rest and digest. So when we get an eviction notice or we have a pile of bills, we don't know how we're going to pay them, or maybe we need to have a conversation with a significant other and say, you know what, this relationship's not working for me anymore, or, you know, quote unquote, conversations that may be perceived to be difficult, or we need to tell somebody something that we're pretty sure will be upsetting to them. Um, Rest and digest or fight or flight. You know, if I had to pick between the two, I think I would pick fight or flight because rest and digest doesn't sound very fitting to those circumstances that might be distressing. Although, so that's why I'm pointing out rest and digest. I love it. I love it. A little bit of a rhyme. I love that it points out digest. But what I want us to really understand and hear is that because those types of circumstances, you do need to be on. Like you can't just go to sleep and solve your eviction notice. You need to be sharp. You have to be able to think and you've got to be open to innovative, creative ways of doing things. So I believe that a lot of us we think if we don't stay in a heightened stress response, we're just not going to give a fuck. we're not going to do what we need to do to make our lives work. And that's the lie that we've bought into. But we're loyal to that. Like, we think if I'm not stressed out, I'm just going to drink beer all day long and lay on the couch and sleep in till noon and play video games. So there's like, I think it's just worth kind of bringing up that the rest and digest phase is optimal for thinking and planning and organizing and getting shit done. It's just not amped up to where all the blood gets shunted from your guts, and that like it's not an adrenaline dump where you need to do something extremely physical. Makes sense, right? So a lot of our behavior patterns are cemented into a lot of our beliefs that result in behavior patterns are created before we're little. And so our survival is threatened. So the fight or flight response is we learn to turn it on and we learn to keep it on to a degree because there are threats in our environment, because we just are not the same size as who we're around. So we've long ago outgrown that discrepancy. And so here we are tonight, practicing the opportunity to learn to turn off the stress response and put our focus, well, and just learn how easy it is. And Fred and I were just having this conversation right before I was like, oh, it's 6:30, let's go. Knowing about breathing and getting into your body and getting into that state of being where you are organized and sharp and clear and you know what you want and you know what you want to do, like getting to that state of being, the only way that you have an effect, that you'll see a result from it, is if you actually do it. So here we are to do it. So I invite all three of us to give yourself a minute, get introspective, like get into your head. I don't usually encourage this, but get into your head and let yourself think about, what would you change in your life if you could change something? Like, what's not optimal for you? What's not working? If you had a magic wand and you could wave it, what would you want? And just let yourself think about it and be brave, because, don't worry, we're going to leave all our problems behind here in a minute. But first, we really actually want to bring them up. So I want you to notice, what do you want? If you could have anything. And then ask yourself, why don't I have that? And let yourself listen to what do you like? Why not? Did you make the wrong decisions 20 years ago? Are you just not smart enough, strong enough, disciplined enough? You just didn't have the right advantages. You had the wrong parents. Just let yourself become aware of that little internal dialogue that tells you where you're basically not enough. Think about, what are you worried about? What's not working? I love to say, never waste a trigger. Do not waste your triggers. So if you have a circumstance in your life right now that's not working, this is what I mean by don't waste it. Like, if something external to you, some circumstance is less than optimal, let it wake up whatever feeling it wants to wake up. Like, those things that you're like, oh my God, I don't even want to think about that. That's what I'm encouraging us to bring it up. Let yourself think about it. Because life is happening all around us. And if the strategy was to just get everything perfect in our lives and then we'll be okay, that is not going to happen. Not first. We have the sequence backwards. So I want us to have the courage to bring it up into your awareness. And then we are going to practice what we are in control of, which is where are we putting our attention? So when all that stuff comes up and you're thinking to yourself, man, I fucked that up. I don't even want to think about it. But I want to think about the things that I've always wanted since I was a little kid, because then I have to remember I didn't do it. I don't know how, whatever it is. And now I invite us to take our attention internal and look around in your body with all of that unpleasant crap that we just brought up. We're not doing it for no reason. We're not going to waste those triggers. We're going to look inside of our bodies and do a scan. And you're welcome as well to ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling right now? Anger, sadness, or fear, or a combination of them. Just let yourself see if you can tell, what emotion am I feeling right now? And then take your attention through your body and look for sensation. And you're not looking for anger, sadness, or fear. You're just looking for whatever physical sensation you find inside of yourself. And it's that physical sensation slash the emotion slash the thoughts that those things create that make us turn on our fight or flight. Because those three things, thoughts, ideas, emotions, and sensation, are perceived as threats, just like a tiger coming at you. So it turns on our fight or flight. But those things live inside of us. And so learning to change our relationship with those, learning that we can have those things going on. And if we turn our attention to the breath and breathe in a rest and digest breathing pattern, we can exist at the same time so that those three experiences no longer turn on our fight or flight. So putting your attention on the sensation and let yourself explore it. Does it have a temperature? Does it have a color, a texture? A movement? A shape? None of the answers mean anything. There's no meaning to it. It's just bringing you into a curious observation of it. And if you could bring your attention directly into the center of that sensation. So we're taking our attention away from the ideas and the circumstances, and we're bringing it into our sensation. We're becoming in intimate contact with ourselves. We're making ourselves the most important element of our lives. Your problems are not more important than you. And where you put your attention is where you're casting your vote for the most important thing. So with your attention drilled into the center of that sensation, breathing in through the nose and out of the mouth. Letting your tongue touch the roof of your mouth on the inhale. And letting it drop away while the mouth opens for the exhale. Every inhale going into the belly first, and then the air just fills up the lungs. And on the exhale, belly first. Don't worry about the lungs. They know what to do. And now pay attention to the duration and just even it out. There's no rush to pull in extra air, and there's no need to really huff it out on the exhale. Just let it be nice and even. Letting every inhale go deeper into the belly. So just playing around with maximum capacity of that inhale. It doesn't have to happen on the next one. You can just gradually increase it every time. Allowing yourself to sigh it out on the exhale if that feels good. Now smoothing it out so there's no pauses. Nice and rhythmic, circular even. So it's no difference if you're in the middle of an inhale. For me, it's at the beginning and ends, right when you're transitioning, that I tend to find some little rough spots, which doesn't mean you'll find yours there, but get curious, pay attention, get to know yourself. Letting a smile spread across your face. Every one of these layers are very powerful communication tools that you're letting your body know everything's fine. Doesn't mean that you still don't have things to organize and ideas to come up with and tasks to take care of, but everything's fine. We don't need to fight or flight. You're choosing to take your attention off of anything that is considered a problem, and you're shifting your attention to optimizing the tool that you're going to use, that's your body, the tool that you'll need to use for all of the tasks that you want to take care of. It's like you're sharpening your pencil before you start writing the essay. So we tend to think external circumstances, when they're all exactly how we want them, that will make us relax. And it does to an extent. Like Audrey, you were just sharing, stay in the breath, that circumstances, stars aligned, and it was better than ever. And I bet you did have a smile plastered across your face when all that fell into place. So it does work in that direction. We do feel joy and, enjoy the experience when it quote unquote all works out. But we tend to deny our power in that we don't assume that if we put a smile on our face and breathe Even though we feel like we have to be in a stress response, we have the ability to control the outcome of what we're seeing in front of us. Those wires go both ways. Maybe one of my favorite things about knowing the power of putting my body into this rest digest state is that in the unlikely event that I do get chased by a tiger, I will be far more effective and ready for it and optimized and sharp when that fight or flight turns on. Because a fight or flight that turns on a body that's practically in fight or flight 24/7 doesn't have much to work with. The body is very depleted, very overweight, very stressed out, very high blood pressure. Like there's nowhere for it to go. So you really are optimal when the contrast between no adrenaline in your system and a big adrenaline dump, when there's a huge difference. We do ourselves no favors by staying even with a slightly turned on stress response. The smile and the posture, those are in ways the fastest shortcut. If you really are having a hard day or you're really feeling like, just notice your posture and just just put your shoulders down your back, lift your head up high, put a smile on your face, and sigh. Start with a sigh. And once you've got yourself in that erect posture and you've dumped a bit of built up carbon dioxide out of your system, then start thinking, okay, in through the nose, touch my tongue to the roof of my mouth. And just let it drop out. And then think, what's the next step? Oh, right. Even inhale and exhale. A body that's not stressed out is just an even, relaxed, rhythmic in and out. And it doesn't have to be a science, but if you're curious, feel free to count the inhale. Just count while you inhale and then count while you exhale and just check it out. Are they the same? And then get curious about the circular nature, nice and smooth. You know how you can hear it in somebody's breathing if they have fallen asleep. You can hear it, it changes, it's rhythmic, it starts to become rhythmic, unless they have sleep apnea, which is pretty common. Stress response, it stays on even while we're sleeping. So watch for the rhythmic. And let yourself enjoy that exhale so much that you might spontaneously smile. It feels good to be in your own body. check back on that sensation and just be curious. Have any of those characteristics shifted? Has the color changed? Maybe the temperature, maybe the shape, maybe the intensity. Maybe it's gone up in intensity. Maybe it's stayed the same. Maybe it's gone down. When we're curious with that sensation and not viewing it as something that we need to get rid of, so uncomfortable. When it's just red and pokey and warm and square and fuzzy. I'm not saying that that would necessarily be comfortable, but I'm saying the word uncomfortable is a judgment, it's a thought that feels uncomfortable, which is going to make us a lot. We know what to do with uncomfortable things. You get rid of them. And so we're changing our relationship. Get rid of something. Now that's starting to sound like I might have to do something that requires fight or flight. I might have to stay stressed out, or I'm just going to let this thing live inside of me and I can't stand it. It's not supposed to be there. Oh. So when we look at the sensations, we just want to look at their characteristics. We're being curious with it. And as long as we keep ourselves breathing in this nice rhythmic, full belly breaths, your body starts to realize this sensation doesn't threaten me. It doesn't make me start to breathe shallow, which really legitimately does start to threaten your livelihood. When your cells stop receiving the life force, they start to die. And that's what turns on the fight or flight. So remember, there's thoughts, emotions, and sensations. And we pretty much believe that we need to get rid of those things in order to be safe. So this practice is about teaching yourself how you can choose to be safe, continuing to allow your life force all the way into the belly so that your cells remain calm and restful and digesting. All the functions are working properly, optimally, even with thoughts you don't like, emotions you think you don't like, and sensations that are foreign. Isn't it so much easier to think about red, square, fuzzy, warm, pulsing? Than to say something like, oh, I feel like I just can't handle all this workload. Like, how are you supposed to feel that? That's a thought. Little smile on the face, deeper into the belly every time. Really play around with the full capacity of the inhale. If and when the sensations go and you're like, oh, there's no more, there's nothing else in there, I invite you to really notice Sometimes it's a new experience to notice what peace, joy, love feels like in the body. And I would not assume to know what it feels like in yours. Some people report like a warm, buzzy type of feeling all over. Sometimes it's just that silent, just absence of, sometimes it almost seems like you don't have a body anymore. And in that circumstance, I invite you to just be the same level of curious and really stay connected to the sensation of yourself breathing, recognizing, oh, yeah, I can feel air coming in through my nose. I can feel the extension in my abdominal wall. I can feel the chair supporting my body or the bed. I can feel those contact points. And let yourself explore and be fascinated with the phenomenon of just existing. Nothing to do but exist. And maybe just sort of touch base with the awareness that one day your body will not exist anymore. And with it will go all the ideas that this particular bodysuit would like to worry about right now. And just notice that your problems will disappear once your life energy is no longer in this suit. All of your problems are imaginary. They're imaginary first. And if you want to prove to me that they're real because they have turned up in the external world, you will be right. I will not take that away from you. But I really encourage you to experiment with bringing your life energy through your body, specifically when you have a trigger, when you have something external to you that you really are afraid of or you're really upset about. Don't waste that trigger. I encourage you in that event to turn your attention to the sensation that it wakes up in your body and breathe with it for a while, all the way until it goes to a zero if you really would like to see the magic. Breathe with it until you open your eyes and you look right at the same situation and you go, oh, I never thought of it that way before. Oh, I see something. I see how. I see what I actually want to do with this. So taking one more look at the sensation that you chose when we started. Just looking and ask yourself if it shifted. What have you noticed? And I encourage you to stay in that 5-layer breathing. I really want to push the edges of this awareness. 5-layer breathing is not something that you need to, do only on Monday nights at 6:30 and Wednesday nights at 6:30. And even though we're going to wrap up the practice here in a minute, there's no need to stop belly breathing. And when your eyes open, you can continue to breathe in through the nose and out of the mouth. And continue breathing into the belly. And, even if you were driving a car right now, you could be breathing into your belly. watching TV, showering, riding a bike, talking to a friend, sleeping. You probably get the point. Unless you need to run really fast, like superhuman fast, or lift something heavy, or pull people out of a burning building. And this is a fun fact, when you need to breathe in a rhythm that is specific to an activity, you don't need to think about that. You don't need to practice it. Your body knows what to do. And then if you breathe in a rest and digest, belly breath, in through the nose, out of the mouth, tongue touches the roof of your mouth, mouth opens. If you breathe like that all the time, your body will be so primed and optimal that it will be super effective, like superhuman effective in the rare event that it needs to do something like that. You don't have to practice dumping adrenaline into your system. I mean, just think of those moments when we scare ourselves and we accidentally, veer into the wrong lane in traffic or just have a near miss and we could you stop the adrenaline dump if you like you or do you have to practice the startle response? Of course not. It's just there. And I'm the first to admit that the world we live in must be pretty fucking crazy if we actually have to practice being normal. But that's all we're doing right now. And it's so unusual that it requires practice. It's so unusual for a person to look around the world and say, I don't see any threats here. But there are none. There are none. Because you already know you're going to die one day. You are. And all the things you're scared of will disappear in that second. So is it really worth worrying about stuff? Who taught us that bullshit? Who taught us that we need to be worried about what happens after we die? We got to make sure that we have everything organized because when we die, we better make sure that we've kept, like, what? How did we even fall for that? I don't know if you need to hear this, but you don't have to, you're not responsible for anything after you're dead. Nobody's coming after you to make you pay your bills or do any of it. And don't fall for that little, well, let yourself hear the little voice that's like, yeah, but my kids will. Yeah, but it's my responsibility to make sure. Do you hold your parents responsible for that? Or your grandparents or their parents? Like how far up the chain do we go? What should they have done to make sure your life was better? And I'm going to bet that your kids would rather have access to you as a happy, healthy, breathing, not stressed out human right now rather than a guilt-free dead person. Ah. So in the beginning, before we got going on the breath, I really felt, and maybe I need to hear this more than anyone else, but I like to remind myself that breathing, letting go of stress doesn't mean you become a couch potato. It doesn't mean that at all. In fact, a couch potato is somebody whose stress response has been on for so long that they cannot tolerate or handle life. So when you actively turn off your stress response and you allow your body to rest and you allow your digestion to work optimally and your circulation to work optimally, and your blood pressure is where it needs to be, and your hormones and your lymphatic system and all of that is working, you become very, very clear in your cognition and sharp. You have good, quote unquote, good ideas. You can't wait to do the things that you wanted to become a grown up so that you could have the freedom to do. You're excited. You don't want to sit on the couch all day long because you want to do things. So rest and digest is not lazy. It's optimal. And stress response is for very rare circumstances that do not include difficult conversations with people. When you're in optimal, sharp, cognitive alertness, you'll realize it's not a difficult. Communicating clearly is not difficult, even if it brings up an emotion in the person I'm talking to. And that is the result of changing your relationship with your emotions and your sensations, so that when somebody across from you is upset and maybe saying things that aren't very kind, you continue breathing because you've been practicing. And nothing turns off your belly breathing. Because it's turning off the belly breathing where you start to suffocate your cells, that the body goes, red alert, we're under threat here. We're dying. Turn on the fight or flight. Get this coconut to start moving and doing something. And then we think, well, I need my stress response on, or I don't do anything. Nope. We're missing a step there. So hopefully all of us have tortured ourselves long enough, being stressed out our whole lives, just trying so hard to get everything right, keeping the heat on ourselves so we don't turn into couch potatoes. Hopefully we have our own personal experience with that long enough that we're saying that shit doesn't work. So when you're ready, and I really, really invite you to just let it be when you're ready. There's nothing wrong with talking with your eyes closed. There's nothing, and I really want to encourage you to remain in this belly breath. So I'm not ending the practice. That's not happening. It goes on and on and on and on and on. But I would love to hear, what did you observe for yourself during the practice tonight? Fred, would you like to go first?
Well, I was, having to search for something.
Mhm.
And I found it again in my lower back. It's been like a bit of a thing lately.
Mhm.
But again, it went away fairly quickly. I didn't quite float on a cloud today, but it was fairly close.
Nice. And then once it went away, was there like anything else that you observed, or did your mind wander? Were you just, there's no right or wrong.
It wanders a little bit, but then I realized that I'm, you know, um, that I'm just wanting to focus on the breathing and the sensation of the breathing, and So then I just do that and it stops the thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, they go pretty quickly. Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Um, Shannon, what did you experience tonight? I know you were not here right from the beginning, but I think you got a fairly good chunk of it.
I experienced like because I was late, I wasn't really fixated on any particular feeling, pain, or
Sensation.
feeling within my body, but I quickly tried to, do some scans and breathe into whatever I did feel. There was some, itches or thoughts or those kinds of things, and try to, just breathe into them and let them go. Again, the things that you were saying just really hit home. Part of the reason why I show up here is to have an opportunity in person to hear you speak, and it's really speaking to me. And yeah, I'm glad I took the time to concentrate on breathing.
Yay. Me too. Me too. And thank you for showing up, even though, it wasn't like, I'm sure you prefer to be here on time. You're usually the first one in. And I think that's really cool that you just showed up. Like, you broke the rules. And then that's something to sit with, and you nailed it. Yeah, like just do what you can, and yeah, welcome. Good for you. The stress response. So not necessary, right? Like you've been listening to me for a long, long time, and you can imagine that I've been listening to me for a long, long time. And the stress response part is really landing for me too. Like, we don't need it. Not like, I mean, we do need it, but we don't need it like we've been using it.
Well, I think it helps me take some responsibility that I need to take in what's been going on for a long time.
Wow.
Experience. Yeah.
I say wow because you are someone that I would say is highly responsible. Like you're no slouch. You take responsibility. So to hear you use it in that, yeah, like I know what you mean. Right. And for you to like, that is very powerful, Shannon. It's shifting because we're the creative force. We're the creative force. And we are just addicted to the behavior pattern of trying to take care of what's already manifested. Mm-hmm. And it's like, the metaphor that I use in my lesson is if you walked into your kitchen and it was flooded and you could see that you left the kitchen tap on and it was overflowing the sink, you would not go get a mop and start cleaning up the water. You would do what?
Turn off the tap.
You would turn off the tap. Of course you would. Yes, you would eventually go get a mop and deal with the mess. But first you would turn off the tap. And that's what's happening when you take responsibility this way. And you can imagine that at first, now what would be a better metaphor? Because you'll get celebrated for turning off the tap. Everyone will be like, yay, she's so effective. She turned off the tap because it's visible, they can see it. But when we choose to take responsibility for this, the energy that's the creative force of the shit that we're living in repeat, when we go, oh, shut up. I know the kitchen's flooding, but I'm going to sit here and breathe for a bit. That's how I'm going to take responsibility for this. You're not going to get celebrated. People are going to go, what the hell is she doing? She's not doing anything. And so the emotion, the sensation inside of us increases. It's like the tap gets turned on double, like extra. So it takes courage. It really takes courage to just finally shift. And then you go and put a smile on your face while the kitchen is flooded and everyone's mad at you. And so it takes courage. But Shannon, to hear you really making that shift to hear you say the sentence, I have to take responsibility. And I know what you mean. And that is such a powerful thing to hear you specifically say that because, I mean, Audrey and Fred don't maybe know you as well, but I'm telling you guys, nobody is more responsible than this woman with the external shit. But for you to shift, and I said this in the beginning, I'm not sure if you're on here yet or not, but when we take our attention off of the manifested problems, we're shifting it onto ourselves. You're first. You're the body that's going to go mop up the water. So when we turn on, you do not need to do that with the same level of energy as you would running really fast. Like, I don't care how fast you want to mop the kitchen. You do not need your stress response on for it. So when we don't let ourselves shift to ourself first, turn off the stress response, be one with the emotion, the energy, everything changes. And this is going to be too far in this metaphor, but believe it or not, the water cleans itself up. Like, it seems like magic just because we're so unfamiliar with normal people who take responsibility for their emotions. We'll go, you're so lucky. Why does everything work out for you? Right? We don't even understand at all that it's powerful, powerful stuff. And when you start looking into quantum physics, history rewrites itself. So it's like the tap never even got left on. So you guys, let yourselves see the magic and then write it down. Write down, holy shit, I breathed and I saw this fall into place. This happened because it's in the ether, these magical results. So if you write it down, you're bringing it into the physical. That makes sense. So do yourself that favor and have what's called an expansion journal where you start writing down, hey, things are working out right now. And Fred will maybe attest to this. And Shannon's watched enough of my stuff to maybe have heard me have this conversation with other people. But I work with clients all the time. And then every now and then they'll come on in the morning and they'll say, oh yeah, this worked out. Well, Audrey just did it. Yeah, she was sad earlier in the week because something didn't work out. And then lo and behold, it worked out better than it would have if it had worked out the first time. Right? Now, Audrey is also a pretty dedicated breather. Since, we ran into each other in the studio, I don't know, 6 months ago. Is that fair, Audrey? Yeah, she started breathing. So I don't know what she'll say. I can get her to unmute, but I've had this experience happen with people. They go, oh, things are working out this week. And I'll say to them, hey, what did you do that's making them work out? And they never say breathing, ever. They skip right over it. They're like, oh, well, I did this different. I did that different. I'm like, no, you started breathing. Like, you got to give it the credit that it's because you're not going to want to, because if you start breathing and the water magically mops itself up, you're going to look like a real weirdo and you're going to sound like a weirdo and you don't want to. You do want to, but I'm saying you have fears that you don't actually want to be perceived as that powerful. So you just will deny it. Don't do that to yourself. Breathing changes everything. Okay, Audrey, you're up.
Yes, I can multitask. I can do deep belly breathing throughout the day. The only thing I'm practicing, I got a new phone, so I was thinking I got to get that 5-minute thing on to see if I really am breathing all day or yeah.
I promise.
So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna shoot a little video and walk us through, as I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to screen share and do a like Loom video. Anyways, I'll figure it out. But it's called Tabata timer, the timer that I use, Tabata timer. And you just go into the default settings, set everything for 5 minutes and make it whatever sound you want. But I suggest the birds chirping. So
yes,
minutes, little birds chirp. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you. Anything you want to share about your experience tonight?
Tonight was awesome. I got kicked off the internet for, I don't know, some time, and I still was breathing, and the pain that was sharp at the beginning left.
Amazing.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all. Mwah. I'm on my way to Hawaii for a training. I'm really excited, a certification. So I will not be on Wednesday, and I will not be on Monday. And I might not be on the next Wednesday either, but you'll know when I'm back.
You deserve it. Thank you. I'm jealous. You'll see the turtles, maybe.
That's what I hear. And you guys will see me when I'm back at some point, and I'm excited. I don't know what to say. I really expect to be delivering a very up-leveled service. So here we go. Yeah. Mwah. Much love.
Okay, thank you, Jody.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jody.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.